My cameraman.
Where are you from?
Sheffield.
Alright.
Originally from.
Yes, no, that's what I meant from, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you studying up there still, or have you finished?
Yeah.
Yeah, still studying. KVE in the electrical engineer.
Oh, wow. Useful.
No.
No.
Alright. I'm ready.
The recording.
我不会拍进去的，
Microphone is
啊？
不会拍到我吧？
不会。
哦，对
You
对
okay with it there? Testing, 1, 2, 1, 2. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
How about
Great.
that?
Okay. At first, I explained my project about the ring. It's the reason I love this place. So I want to know your attitude towards to the ring in Britain because you brown hair and girl
Yeah.
hair. So what do you think about it?
I come from Manchester, which is famous for the rain, so I grew up with it. And whenever I came to Nottingham, whenever I went back to Manchester, it seemed like when you got within 10 miles, there was like a wall of rain kind of waiting for you to come to drive into. So I was really used to it. So you have to plan everything, where I came from anyway, you have to plan everything thinking it might rain that day, even in the summer. So it's really difficult to plan a whole day in England without knowing that there might be some rain. Although this week it hasn't rained at all, so it's kind of, when you expect it, it doesn't come, and then when you least expect it, it rains like mad. So I'm used to the rain, and I guess sometimes I like it, but it has to be on my terms. Usually when you're working, it gets in the way because it means you have to, extra layers of clothes, work out where you park. I sometimes cycle, and I really like cycling in Nottingham and in the countryside, but in the rain it just becomes a bit of a pain. It's okay if it's cold or if it's sunny or slightly wet underfoot, but if you're cycling in the rain and it's going into your face, it's just really not much fun. And you just get covered in in rain and in mud, and it becomes more difficult and more dangerous because people are watching. So I like walking in the rain with a dog. I've got a Labrador dog, so I take her every day, and she loves the rain, and it kind of cleans her coat, and she just thinks it's really adventurous. So it's quite fun going out with her because she's sort of so much more full of life. But then she gets in the car, and I've got quite a small car, and then I watch in the mirror, and I watch her get in the back soaking wet, and then she does that shake, and I see the whole of the windows all become covered with water and mud. So sometimes it's not so good for cleanliness, but yeah, so walking the dog, cycling I hate, but sometimes kind of walking in the rain is quite good fun if the weather's quite warm.
How was your feeling when the weather is rain?
How does my mood?
Yeah.
Usually it makes me a bit more miserable, so if I get up in the morning and open the curtain and it's raining, I just think, everything's a bit more difficult all over the place, and I don't think it's fun in England. And I know it makes the grass grow green and everybody says it's lovely, and that's why England and Ireland are kind of so beautiful, but not for me. I much prefer it. I play football, and I like playing football in the sunshine, not in the rain. And I play tennis, and you can't play in the rain. Well, I play sometimes and it's soggy. So the only time I like it, or one of the only times I like it, is at night. So if you leave the window open and you're kind of snug, you're warm at home in bed, and you hear it outside thundering and lightning and really heavy rain, that makes you feel quite safe and secure, I suppose. I quite like that. But
Do you nowadays have the website you can heard from the rain to go to sleep?
no, do you? You can just switch it on and have rain
Yeah.
anyway.
Rainingmood.com.
Okay, rainymood.com. I'll have to have a look at that one. So yeah, that's about the only time. I mean, sometimes on holiday I liked it when it kind of cleans everything off. So sometimes in the summer, everything gets dusty and hot and muddy, and it's not so pleasant and a bit too clammy. And then if it rains, it just clears, and there's a smell afterwards of kind of warm tarmac and fields and grass and stuff that can be really nice. So occasionally it's good. And I live in a village where there's lots of fields of wheat and barley and stuff, so I know the farmers like it when it rains. So if you have a really bad summer, when it doesn't rain. It's been raining too much recently, but so sometimes you know that the local people like it when it rains, but I much prefer sunshine all the time. So California would be good for me, I think.
You spent your childhood in the America, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, just for a couple of years when I was a kid, and we lived in Kansas, which is right in the middle. So I don't know how it relates to places that you live in China, but in Kansas it has 4 seasons, really distinct seasons. So winter is just snow and really cold, and then there's some rain in the spring, but the summer was just sunshine all the time, really hot, and then autumn it's kind of cold and blustery and the leaves all change. So it was really distinct. You know, you kind of knew that there were going to be 3 months of different seasons, whereas in England it's just a mess. Everything comes at different times. So I don't remember rain so much in America, but I remember tornadoes, which again came with rain and stuff. So it was kind of scary. And to go to school when you were 8 years old and have tornado warnings, you know, as an English kid, you just didn't expect. So.
It's the same as in my hometown. Sometimes we got the tornado.
Really?
Yeah, and we got a warning that the kids, you don't have to go to school today, and we were so happy.
Yeah.
to stay at home.
Because they had 2 fire drills. Well, they had 2 drills in America. So at school, I used to get them confused because for fire you close the windows so that there's no oxygen, and for tornadoes you open the windows because I think it was because if the windows were all closed and the tornado would explode the windows and smash them all, so that you leave a few windows open to let the wind rush through. So, and I could never quite get them, you know, the right thing. So, but yeah, most of the time I don't remember that much rain in America. San Francisco sometimes, you know, we went over there. There was different places, and the East Coast, Boston, and there was quite rainy. But most of the others, I just remember sunshine or snow.
So where you prefer to live if you can choose America or England?
For the rain and the weather, I would say America. So I'd really like to live in somewhere like California or Washington or somewhere like that. That's travelled before. But I like England, and I like kind of the people and the humour and family and things. So I do enjoy living here, but I'd love to go and spend some time in another country for a long time rather than just a few weeks.
So, when for your childhood, is no more clear memory about the rain?
When I was a kid,
Yeah.
I remember being taken to school for the first time by my granddad in the rain, in a really old car, and we got to this school, and then it was pouring with rain, and he took me to the gate, and then I decided I didn't want to go, and I clung onto the fence until he pulled me, so I was like just clinging on, saying I'm not going, you know, really wet, and he grabbed hold of me and took me in the school, and you know, then I stayed and stuff. So they're not great memories. Some memories, I'm from Manchester, so I used to go to Old Trafford to see Manchester United play football. And a lot of the games there would be in the rain, and that could be quite exciting because if you were undercover and you know, it was kind of coming down on the ground and it made the ball move around faster and things. So sometimes going to those big games all wrapped up was quite an adventure, a bit different from the kind of usual thing. But no, most of the time, you know, it kind of got in the way of playing sport and stuff. Sometimes I played rugby at school, and that was more fun in the rain sometimes because everybody kind of slid around and got really filthy and
You get mud all
Yeah.
over the body.
mud all over the place. But no, I never, and it was always having spare clothes. And if you spend, I mean, it's okay getting wet once in the rain, isn't it? But then if you have to spend hours in wet clothes, and I never had the right clothes. I've only just in the last few years started buying clothes that actually keep the rain out. I don't know why. I always bought cheap stuff. I thought, oh, this will do, and then it lets the rain in, you know, and you end up really wet on something. So now I cycle quite a lot, and I've got some really good waterproof things.
Do you wear Wellington?
Sorry?
The Wellington.
Wellingtons? No. I've got some really good walking boots now, waterproof. Again, they used to let water in all the time, and I used to get. But now these are beautiful because you can walk for ages with the dog, and they don't let the water in. I know. It's taken me 50 years to learn how to get dressed for the rain.
So do you have some favorite scenes in the rain in some film? you like?
Oh, in the film?
Yeah.
Well, the end of Breakfast at Tiffany's
Yeah,
with
I remember
Audrey
that.
Hepburn.
At last, you know, when she's in the cab and the guy, I forgot his name, and trace the cab and
Yeah.
give her a cat or something.
Yes, that's exactly right. He gives her a cat down an alley,
Yeah.
and she stops the taxi, and he has to get out and go and find the cat, and then he takes it back in, and they're a kind of happy family. But it's absolutely pouring it down. So, but I know watching films that quite often, because I used to be a location manager for film and television, and rain was always a problem because if it rained and then in terms of both it was difficult getting the crew into a place where it rained all the time, but also if you shot one scene and it wasn't raining and then 2 days later it was raining, obviously continuity was a problem. So that was a real, you'd have to look at the weather forecast quite a lot and just hope that it wasn't going to rain because it would change everything, the whole look of everything. But in a lot of films the rain isn't, you probably know this, but the rain as it appears on camera isn't good enough, so they have to make it really heavy rain to make you absolutely to be able to see it. So there are films like, it's a film called The Natural about baseball with Robert Redford, and at the end of that film it starts to rain, and it rains really, really heavily, and it's quite kind of atmospheric. But yeah, just there's something about that kind of wet face. And also Four Weddings and a Funeral at the end, Hugh Grant and Andy McDowell. And she comes out and she's basically saying, give me another chance kind of thing. And she's wet and it's outside. And then I think there's a line where he says, it's raining, and he says, I didn't notice. Or she says, I didn't notice. I can't remember who says it. It's that idea that if you're so much in love, and even if you're getting soaked, you wouldn't notice kind of thing. You're walking out with somebody who you really like, it could be pouring, and it doesn't really matter. I guess there are other films like Seven, where the rain plays a really important part in the atmosphere, and in Blade Runner, it's just always raining. It's as if the sky has fallen in, and the water and the rain and the kind of oppressiveness is part of the atmosphere of the whole film. It's like a third character or a fifth character or whatever. So with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman, I think, isn't it? Yeah. But if you notice in almost every scene, except when they go in the desert and the end of it, he takes them out of the city into the desert where something horrible is going to happen, and it's all dry and barren, and there's a box appears on a dusty road. So it's like that's their atmosphere, and that's where they kind of exist, and then takes them somewhere else. So yeah, I guess they're the kind of ones that spring to mind about raining. I suppose other times it's when something's really dry and then you love the rain. It's not a film, but there's a photograph of some African kids really enjoying the rain, a really big famous photograph from Magnum and they've all opened their mouths because it's pouring so much and it doesn't usually rain. So it does remind you that for us it's boring, but for some people it's a matter of, it's exciting and it's life and death kind of thing. So there are instances where you understand how important the rain is and how exciting it is to people, but not often in England. Usually it's just means you can't have so much fun.
So if you decide to, like, as you say, you was a location manager, and if you decide to film a particular scene outdoor at that day, and the weather forecast says okay, it's gonna be sunshine, but when you're actually there, there's pouring rain. What you want?
Usually as a location manager, there's two things you do. One is it's your job to try and check the weather. So there is a website you can pay for where you go and it gives you the weather in that place every hour. So you can track it and say, in 1 hour it should be sunny, in 2 hours it should be. And it doesn't always work, but it is much better than just watching the BBC News and thinking, oh, it's going to be rainy today. But then you tell the director that's what's going to happen, and then it doesn't happen and you're in trouble, so it's tricky. And the other job is to make sure you have some alternative place to shoot it if possible. So you wouldn't shoot that same scene, but you would have an alternative. So you say, we can't film today, so we'll film the interior. So you'd have a fallback, you'd have something that was an alternative to be able to go and do. And again, that's up to you to know that the right people are there for the right time, and you can just say, we're not going to film today, we're going to do some other time.
Always safe to have a backup plan.
Yeah. or you just make sure that every time you film, I suppose the other way is that you film in the rain the first time, and that if it's not raining the next time you spray stuff down, but that can be expensive as well, so you have to be a bit careful. Or rewrite, as a writer maybe you have to rewrite, so the first scene is in the rain and the second isn't, but it gets a bit messy. You're better off, it's also why they tell when you're writing scripts not to put, unless it's absolutely necessary, don't say they met together in the rain, because it's like, it makes a real problem for the location manager and the producer. If it's absolutely necessary, like in 4 Weddings and a Funeral, or Hard Rain, which is an action film with, again that's Morgan Freeman, I think.
So many Korean film like to fight in the rain
Yeah,
to make the mess, the sprawls,
Yeah.
those things.
Seven Samurai is all, the last scene of the Seven Samurai, the Kurosawa one, is all in the rain. And that, if you look at the documentary, that was an accident. It was actually filmed on location, which he insisted, and it went over budget, and they kept saying, we're going to pull the money, and he keeps saying, okay, but I'm not making it otherwise. So they kept funding it, and the scene on location started to rain, and he just said, this is what it says in the documentary anyway, that he just said, okay, we'll continue to film, and it just made it, because it was all them really squelching, it was down to the kind of, it made it very brutal and natural that they were all fighting and dying in the rain, you know, that it was much more atmospheric. So, say another film to throw in.